So we just got some new breaking news on the Fresh Start servers coming on May 1st. If you thought these were going to be crazy before, just wait, because we just got some news that's going to really blow the handles off this in a way that has me a little bit nervous. I think it's mostly going to be okay, but I'm a little nervous. So what changed? Well, as many of you guys know, they're going to be merging the Vira realm and the Lyneth realm, smashing those together, merging those to test their server merging tech, see what breaks. That's old news. What's new news is that after they test that, they're going to be testing the server merge on Wednesday, April 30th, one day before the Fresh Start server. They're going to test the server merge for 1 day, and then they're getting rid of those servers. You will not be able to play on Vira, Lyneth, Resna, Lotharia, whatever the server name is. If it's not Shoal, you can't play on it. What am I saying? On May 1st, there will be one server for the whole game to play on. It's a Fresh Start server, full wipe for everybody May 1st. That's going to be crazy. One realm, all regions. The EU server, they're getting rid of that. Getting rid of the 2 US realms. One server for everybody. That's going to be insane. As I said previously, I'm a little bit nervous, and that's for only one reason, and it's for only about 48 hours, and that's going to be that initial glut of players all going through Lion's Hold and those initial Riverland starting areas. Right now, there's only really one starting area. In Phase 3, that won't be the case. We'll have the Anvils, and I'm sure they're probably going to spread out some of the stuff in Lion's Hold. That's just a real bottleneck in the game. So I'm sure that will improve. But that's my only real concern, is that first 48 hours. And depending on how they launch the server and maybe stagger that out and dampen the spike, which we'll talk about in a minute, that might not even be a problem, because honestly, they're getting better and better at this. Phase 1 was just like a total disaster. Like you had your 8-hour sitting in queues, not being able to play at all. Phase 2, I didn't have any like dramatic issues. There were some queues. There was a little bit of like weirdness, but I don't know. Phase 2 for me wasn't too bad. Now, this particular time, it might be a little rough because there's literally one server, right? But one thing to keep in mind is they are doubling the amount of server workers. So we have like, I don't know if it's going to necessarily be twice the capacity, but we got a lot more like hardware going into this one. Another thing we didn't have last time was Samia's Hope, which isn't exactly a new starting area, but it's a new segment of the starter area, and that might be on a different server worker. So you have a little bit of things spreading people out. However, the big thing that's different this time that's really going to help Intrepid is that the player base knows to get out of Lion's Hold as quickly as possible. There have been people that have been practicing their leveling routes to get to level 8, level 10 as fast as humanly possible to get out of Lion's Hold, to get off those server workers. A good chunk of the player base knows this. So if they can launch the server early in the day and all of the sweats and no-lifers can just get out of Lion's Hold and they can dampen that initial spike hitting Lion's Hold, hitting those early Riverland zones, then they might not even have a problem at all. Worst case scenario would be that they can't get the servers online, they have a delay, and everybody gets into the game at like 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern. Like, that's nightmare scenario, because then you have the casuals hitting it, the hardcores hitting it, and it's just going to blow up. But if they can get that thing up and running early in the day, and you can get a lot of these people out of the Riverlands before the bulk even gets on, that's going to be big. The only other thing that makes me a little nervous about having one server is the ability for a streamer to destroy the server from a technical perspective. Like if a Summit or Pirate Software or Asmongold, whoever wants to check out Ashes of Creation, they log into the one server, and now all of a sudden they're flooded with login, character creation, and tons of things like that they're not used to. Will that destroy the server? We're just going to have to find out. I'm not super worried about it from the social perspective, because I think there's just a lot of competition on this server, which we'll get into in a minute. But I am a little worried that, one day Asmongold's going to see like what's going on in Ashes of Creation, and the server is just going to explode because it's literally everybody hitting that one server at prime time, right? That's a little terrifying. Now on to the $6 million question, and that is, why are they forcing everybody onto one server? Now let's talk about the obvious answer, and that is that these old legacy realms and the European realm were the Walking Dead. They were, best case scenario, they were the Walking Dead. Realistically, those servers were already dead, because anytime there is a new Fresh Start server, every new player, for the most part, is going to roll on that fresh start server rather than the old legacy servers. If you're new to the game, why would you roll on a server where people have thousands of gold capped on multiple? Why would you play on that server? Why not play on the fresh server where everybody's new just like you? Like, that is the obvious thing. And then you also have a good chunk of the population that wants to play on the fresh start server. Those servers were either already dead or going to rapidly die. It's crazy to continue testing on those servers because any data or like player feedback you get is either entirely useless or you're going to have to take it with such a grain of salt that you might as well just discard it. Like, we're playing a sandbox MMO and you're playing a single player game over on the legacy realm. Like, what are we doing? The next reason they might be doing this is that something about the server merging tech might not be working properly. We very well could log into these servers on Wednesday and it's just a total disaster catastrophe, but that's what we're here to test for. So that is a decent possibility that maybe not everything is working with server merge tech and they're just like, you know what, we can't fix this in time. Let's just roll with it, see what happens, and we'll fix it later, right? That very well could be a possibility. Next thing, they want to get more leveling and feedback from people that aren't just the Sweatlord Gigasweats. Obviously, the Fresh Start server was going to attract the competitive guilds that want to just run this thing back because the old server sort of got tarnished from a competitive standpoint. But when everybody has to go and do it again, and everybody has to be on the same server and be a part of the madness, and you can't like opt out, that's going to be like some real data. What is it like when you can't escape Pirate Software and Polar and all of these guilds? There's nowhere to go. You can't dodge them. Now we're getting some like real deal feedback. And we're also, speaking of feedback, getting some real deal concurrency feedback. Like, this is going to be crazy concurrent player numbers. Especially, it's a little nerve-wracking, to be honest. Like, if they weren't as bold as they were, you would think 2 servers, right? You would think, like, for sure, 2 fresh start realms, right? 1 EU, 1 US, or maybe 2 US. Like, I mean, it is crazy they're going with just 1. So they're really, like, they're not pulling any punches. They really are trying to test this shit for their server meshing, which is a big deal. Like, their server meshing tech is, like, one of the big things they got to get right, I feel like, for this game. We're not going to get into my conspiracy theory with, like, how they might be monetizing this, how the company might be making money outside of just the game. You know, that's my little conspiracy theory. But yeah, I think the server merging tech is a big deal for the company of Intrepid. We'll just leave it at that. Now, I know some of you guys are a little bit bummed hearing that we're going to get wiped, and then we're potentially likely going to get wiped again on August 4th. Now, you hear this and you go, what the heck? That's not that much time. Like, I don't want to play just to get wiped again. That's like 95 days. Well, to put things into context, it's been about 120 days since the last wipe, and people have been wanting a wipe for probably at least 2 or 3 weeks. So the way I see it is, worst case scenario, the wipe happens a couple of weeks earlier than people would have liked, and that's also assuming that Phase 3 comes on time. I am of the belief that this 95-day testing phase, 95 days before we get the next one, I think that's kind of enough time. It's also going to be summer. People might have a little bit more time to play. And also, guys, not 95 days, I feel like after a while, we're going to be itching for the next wipe, because also you have to keep in mind we're going to be getting a lot of the Phase 3 hype. We're going to have a new class. We're going to be going into Phase 3 with potentially, a new class, new content. We're going to be having all this stuff teased. Then there's going to be the excitement of new players jumping in, and it's going to be a little easier to stomach this wipe. And again, I feel like 95, considering this particular test phase has been 120 and people have been itching for a wipe, I think we're likely going to be okay with the next wipe as well. And I said this in my previous video, but in terms of mmorpg testing, Intrepid is getting very lucky. They're being able to have their cake and eat it too. Generally, with mmorpg testing, the players absolutely despise being wiped. And there are obviously some people that don't like the wipe this time around, but like, in the grander scheme of things, these wipes are like extremely popular with the player base, which is so atypical for MMO testing. Usually players cannot stand being wiped in these MMORPG tests. But Intrepid gets a lot of great data from this. They get a lot of data on the early game, the leveling curves, the intro experience. What is it like when everybody hits the servers day one? They're getting so many reps on this that it's pretty invaluable. So they're getting pretty lucky with how things just happen to be working out. They haven't really done a super unpopular wipe yet, which is, I don't know, pretty atypical. All right, now let's get into the fun stuff and talk about what the Shoal server is going to be like. It is going to be the Thunderdome. I think this will be a period of Ashes of Creation history that we look back at, and maybe we're going to have some PTSD about how like silly it was or how laggy and broken it was, but I think it's absolutely going to be a memorable moment because we've got everybody from every region on the same server. For better or worse, it's going to be interesting, and I'm very excited to see how things play out. So, first big development on the Shoal server is one of the Lyneth guilds called Federation has allied with Envious and Polar, which is honestly kind of a bizarre move. Now, I don't have any ill will towards the Federation because I've never played with or against them. I don't know anybody in that guild. The only interaction I have with them is watching their YouTube videos and going, oh, that's pretty neat. So that's all I really know personally about them. But I think a lot of people are hearing about this alliance and it's just like a real like head scratcher. What? You're doing what with who? The best analogy I have is it's like World War II and you've got Germany and Japan and then Italy jumps in and the rest of the world is like, why them? Like, why them? Anyone else them? It's just a weird thing that I think most people are hearing about and just they have this reaction. Like this meme kind of sums it up. I think that is it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Next up, we have Nova Ortum, which is a Vira guild. And in my opinion, these guys are the dark horse sleeper. Holy fuck, can these guys bring the thunder in terms of people? They've kind of just been a little inactive recently, but like the best comparison I have is like the Nova Ortum are like the Dothraki from Game of Thrones. Like it's just like, holy fuck, like we're all over here with our like fancy like leadership structures and like organizations, and they're just like this horde of Brazilians, and it like you just don't know. And they really can bring a ton of people that are like super motivated in a weird way that is just not like the US skill. It's a very different vibe from them. And there's also a fun little synergy happening with this mega server, and that there's another Brazilian guild called YBR from the Crowfall days, if any of you guys remember. And I would assume, right, the two Brazilian guilds like ally together, like for nationalism and stuff, right? Come on. So I think that Nova Ortum potentially like dark horse. Nobody's really talking about them, but like, dude, they can bring the horde of Brazilians, and yeah, way. Next up, we have the European guilds, and I'm just gonna call them that because nobody knows any of their names. Now, there's a little rumor that apparently all of the European guilds are going to band together to try and fight the US guilds, which is adorable. Honestly, that's really cute. No, in all seriousness, I hope that works. It's honestly really fun when different regions face each other, like in any game, really. Like, you know, even in WoW, they would just have different play styles and just slightly different ways of going about things. And it's always interesting. So I would love to see Ashes turn into like this nationalistic, like it's the Brazilians versus the Europeans versus the US guys. I like that. It's fun. That's a fun narrative. And finally, the 10,000-pound elephant in the room, and that is the Pirate Software Guild, Actual Pirates. Now, I'm going to talk shit about this guild specifically because I want them to prove me wrong. I think it would be so compelling if this guild actually showed up and was like competitive and didn't just get rolled. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I think this guild is going to be the biggest nothing burger. I think they're just going to get smashed by all the guilds that are much better at the game than them because they've just been playing in Care Bear Land. I don't know, man. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it, and I want to be wrong. I want them to see me talking shit about them and go, we're going to show that Zyback guy, and we're going to show up, and we're going to own. But, man, I'm having a real hard time envisioning that. So, I'm curious to see the spin of why they're not on the server. Like, why are they not playing? What's going to be the excuse? The community, the toxicity, we're just taking a break till phase 3 and there's another server we can go to. Like, the spin will be biblical. But you know what? Prove me wrong. Dude, there would be nothing that would piss me off more. You know what would make me so mad is if the pirate software guilds showed up and then the guilds that typically don't work together would have to work together to fight the pirate. That would make me so mad. So yeah, if you just, I'd hate that. I would fucking hate that. And finally, my guild, Barcode. What are we going to be doing? Well, I don't really know. A lot of people seem to think that because I'm like a YouTuber that I like really know the inner workings of like what's happening and I'm like somehow like a big part of like the leadership or something. Like, I am a foot soldier trigger man. I don't really know what's going on. I just sort of do what they tell me. The rogue class came out and I've sort of secluded myself and I've just been like autistically killing crabs on the beach, like figuring out like timings and practicing things. I've basically been Eminem in 8 Mile in my trailer writing down rap lyrics, except just that, but autistically killing crabs on the beach over and over again while I like practice things. That's been me. So I don't really know. I know everybody's really excited. I'm very excited. But I do know that the guild, I've been plotting. I have been subconsciously plotting against the guild, and its destruction is imminent. I am inevitable. I will destroy this guild. It's only a matter of time before Barcode evaporates in a Thanos snap. So at some point, you know, because everything I like dies, this guild will explode and cease to exist, I'm sure. But yeah, we're all very excited. I don't think we have any like official hard alliances yet. We got a lot of people that just want to fight. Like they just want to go. So yeah, I am very excited for May 1st. Cannot wait. I'm a little nervous. Definitely a little bit nervous about the first 48 hours. I think are probably going to be a little bit of a shit show. The only thing that I can complain about, small gripe, and that is that they didn't name the server Resna. Why they named the merged server Resna and not the fresh start server is a fumble. The name Resna has like a meaning, and that just goes to show you how far the alpha video game, like how good of a job they've done with this game, that the Resna server has like some baggage, and like you kind of have an opinion about that name and what that name like sort of represents in this alpha video game. Like that's great, right? That's great. We have a feeling about something like so dumb like that, right? It's like Tichondrius or on WoW or like Illidan or like BlackRock. Like those servers have like a little bit of a reputation. So I would have had the fresh start server named Resna. That's just me though. Well, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Have a good one.